Welcome to New Era School Notes for Studies.
Today, we're getting into a really crucial moment in Malawi's history.
That's right, the 1964 cabinet crisis. It happened just months after independence, a huge political shock.
Yeah, a major confrontation between Prime Minister Hastings Banda and, well, most of his cabinet ministers.
So our mission today is to dig into the sources and understand why. What were the real reasons this crisis erupted?
Okay, well, the first thing to understand is that, it wasn't just one single cause.
Right.
The sources, especially accounts from the ministers who resigned or were dismissed, show it was really a buildup of several deep-seated issues.
Okay, so let's unpack those. What's the main thing that comes through?
I'd say right at the top, maybe the biggest single grievance, was Banda's leadership style. The ministers called it autocratic.
Autocratic how, exactly? What did that look like in practice?
Well, he basically didn't consult them. He saw himself as the sole decision-maker, the boss.
Yeah.
And he apparently viewed his ministers more like subordinates, people to carry out orders, rather than actual colleagues to develop policy with.
So very top-down.
Extremely. He even made, public comments that sometimes belittled them. He just wouldn't delegate any real authority.
Wow. And wasn't there someone who sort of predicted this?
Ah, yes. Caesar. It's quite chilling, actually. Before his death, he warned that any leader who surrounds himself only with willing subordinates, well, he'd inevitably become a dictator.
And looking back, that seems incredibly spot on for what happened with Banda.
Frighteningly so, yeah.
Okay, so his leadership style was a major factor. What about actual policy? Were there big disagreements there, too?
Oh, absolutely. Huge ones. Foreign policy was a massive flashpoint.
How so?
Banda insisted on maintaining diplomatic ties with apartheid South Africa and also colonial Portugal.
Which must have been controversial.
Hugely controversial, especially for the younger, more Pan-Africanist ministers. And at the same time, he refused to recognize China or East Germany. And he wasn't keen on closer ties with nearby African nations like Zambia and Tanganyika either.
So this wasn't just about tactics. This was like a fundamental disagreement on Malawi's place in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A real ideological clash over the country's direction right after independence. It went against everything many of his ministers believed in.
Okay, that's foreign policy. Did these clashes extend to domestic issues as well, things affecting people day to day?
Yes, definitely. The sources mention specific austerity measures that were really unpopular.
Like what?
Things like freezing the salaries of civil servants. And, maybe even more significantly, introducing a small charge for outpatients at government hospitals.
Ah, okay. So people suddenly had to pay for health care they didn't before.
Right. And the ministers felt this just wasn't right, that the benefits of independence weren't, trickling down.
That makes sense. Anything else on the domestic front?
Yes, the pace of Africanization in the civil service, it was seen as far too slow by many ministers. They wanted Malawians replacing colonial officials much faster.
So slow progress there added to the frustration.
It did. And then there was one specific proposal from Banda in July '64 that really seemed to unite all the ministers against him.
What was that?
He wanted to reintroduce detention without trial. That was a critical moment. It even led to Colin Cameron, the one European minister, resigning in protest immediately.
Detention without trial, that's a big one. So we have the autocratic style, major policy fights. Were there deeper things going on, like underlying tensions?
Absolutely. You have to look at the political culture and the sort of makeup of the leadership.
Okay.
There was a pretty clear generational gap. You had Banda, who was older, perhaps more cautious or moderate in some ways.
Right.
And then you had these younger ministers, people like Pambre, Chiome, the Chisiza brothers, who were much more influenced by Pan-Africanism, sometimes socialism. They had different ideas, different energy.
A real ideological divide then, beyond just specific policies.
Yes. And you also have to consider the Malawi Congress Party itself, the MCP.
What about it?
Even before this crisis boiled over, Banda had already shaped the MCP into what sources call an absolutist body. There was very little tolerance for dissent, even perceived dissent.
So questioning the leader, even constructively, was already difficult.
Extremely difficult. The culture just didn't allow for it easily.
And it sounds like Banda didn't just let this happen. He actively pushed it.
The sources suggest he did, yeah, using tactics to keep ministers off balance.
Like what kind of tactics?
Things like suddenly reshuffling who was in charge of what ministry. Arbitrary dismissals. There's the example of Insanthi being temporarily removed.
Uh-huh.
And even public accusations. He apparently accused Chipember, Kium, and Wanasi of forming a secret group, a cabal, plotting against him.
Wow, so actively undermining them and sowing mistrust.
Exactly. Diminishing their power, making sure no one challenged his ultimate authority.
So putting it all together then, what's the big picture here?
Well, the 1964 cabinet crisis wasn't simple. It was this perfect storm, really.
Right.
You had Banda's increasingly authoritarian grip clashing directly with ministers who wanted more consultation. You had these fundamental disagreements over the direction of the country, both at home and abroad.
And those underlying generational and ideological tensions bubbling just beneath the surface.
Precisely, all coming together just months into independence.
It's quite stark, isn't it, how a movement united for independence could fracture so quickly and so deeply over the vision for the future.
It really is. And it throws up a fundamental challenge,
Which is?
How do new nations, new leaders, balance that need for strong government and stability, especially right after independence, with the need to actually share power, to allow different views to build collectively?
That's a tough balancing act.
It really is. And it's a question that goes way beyond Malawi in 1964. You see echoes of it in many places, even today. How do you govern effectively and inclusively?
A critical question indeed. Lots to think about there.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. We are also on Facebook and TikTok. Just scan the QR. This is Victoria signing out. Peace.